Welcome to Matchback Systems podcast. As some background for this episode, our company is based in Green Bay, and we've enjoyed the technology and entrepreneurial infrastructure in the region. Now there's an exciting initiative to spur economic expansion in Northeast Wisconsin by developing existing and new business ventures through tech innovation. And we have two guests today who are directly involved and can tell us all about it. I'm happy to introduce Kelly Armstrong, Vice President of Economic Development at the Greater Green Bay Chamber, and Craig Dickman, Managing Director of Titletown Tech's Innovation Center. A warm welcome, and thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, Heather. Looking forward to the discussion and happy to join you.
Yes, thank you. Very excited to have the opportunity and to get the word out. It's great.
Fabulous. So let's talk about Titletown Tech. So Craig, how did it come about and what are the goals?
Well, Titletown Tech really started kind of with a question that the senior person, the Chief Operating Officer of the Green Bay Packers, asked when he started thinking about ways that the Packers as a community organization, we have 362,000 shareholders, one of the most recognizable brands in the world, which makes Green Bay a very recognizable brand, and started asking questions of how can we help support the economy and encourage entrepreneurship and really help build out the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and then also look at ways to increase the technical capabilities within this region, recognizing that markets are changing quickly, that we really needed to make sure that we were keeping up and then leading when it came to applications of technologies into some key areas of our economy, and then just looking at ways to leverage connections that the Packers have. So the objective of Titletown Tech is I really think of it as a innovation venture building ecosystem focused on working with entrepreneurs that want to start, build, and grow businesses, and then really focused on leveraging technology to solve real problems within the areas that our economy is built on.
Okay. How does it work, Craig? Do innovators come along and pitch their ideas to get support for a new venture, or do existing businesses highlight tech challenges that they need to help to overcome? What's the process?
Well, there's really a couple things that are going on inside Titletown Tech. Like you said, with the entrepreneur, it is an entrepreneur who approaches us and usually has an idea, something that they want to do that they think would be impactful, and we have the opportunity to sit down and work with them or talk with them, and then if it connects, if it seems to be a good fit for us, then what we may do is invite them into the Titletown Tech Venture Studio. So that's a place that we connect with entrepreneurs who are looking to build at the very early stage. And so it's connecting with entrepreneurs. It's also connecting with some businesses more on the investment side who have maybe got a small team going, have a few customers, have tested the market, and are now looking to see how they can really grow, scale, and expand their business. And so we may work with them in that case from an investment side, because in addition to the venture studio, which is focused on working with entrepreneurs to build, we also have a venture fund that's designed to fund and help businesses in this area expand and scale and make a greater impact. And so that's really the two primary threads. Now, we also do get involved, as you mentioned, with some local businesses who are looking to create. And so we have some innovation space or innovation lab as well. And that's focused on the very, very early stage. So as we thought about it and looked at the ecosystem that existed here, we really thought that we could provide, a few different capabilities. One was capital through the fund, also by bringing resources in to help entrepreneurs build. And the way we've thought about that is, so often right now, when you look at the overall market and see that 75% of all private equity is going to Boston, New York, and Silicon Valley, what often happens is an entrepreneur may think, hey, if I want to build something, I'm going to go where there's talent, resources, and capital. And what we do is say, hey, come into Titletown Tech, let us bring talent, resources, capital in, surround you, and give you a place to build here.
Okay. So, Kelly, I know the Chamber does a lot of work to foster entrepreneurship and business expansion in the region, and there's already a startup hub in Green Bay. So how does that work? What are its goals, and how does that work to help innovators and entrepreneurs in the region?
Sure. Great question. So we actually have had a business incubator here for startups for quite some time, over 10 years. And we recently relaunched and rebranded it as the Startup Hub, really positioning it to be the front door for the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in the greater Green Bay area. And, one of the things I always tell people is that Craig and I work closely together. We co-chair an innovation entrepreneurship task force, which is made up of community leads in the space, so that we are constantly dialoguing about how do we continue to build out the ecosystem, identifying gaps, and how do we fill those. And we really see that as our partnership role. The Titletown Tech is a transformational investment in the area, and we want to make sure we're leveraging that, but we also want to make sure that we're supporting in other ways. Titletown Tech has a very definitive focus, and there's a lot of other space to cover too. And so we want to make sure that the companies that are in those other spaces are being supported as well. And so that's part of what we work on too, is that we look at the ecosystem as a whole, which is a great perspective that Craig really brings to the table with his experience and background, and of course his vision for the future, really being able to make sure that all of these efforts, initiatives, and investments are working hand in hand to really give us a strong foundation to continue to build the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Green Bay, greater Green Bay area.
Okay.
And Heather, maybe I could jump. Heather, I was going to say, maybe I could jump in for a second and just share as well. As somebody who's kind of grown up in the Green Bay area and who built, a business here, I think one of the things that's been really exciting about watching this ecosystem inside or around Green Bay develop has been this collaboration that's taking place now between, the Chamber with the Startup Hub, the Urban Hub with Titletown Tech. I think one of the real stories coming out of what's happening here in Green Bay has been both the alignment and the support and the collaboration that's taking place among us and others in this ecosystem that are really focused on building, and the ability to really leverage resources and connect people to customers and bring the kind of programming that's necessary to entrepreneurs. And so I think what's taking place in Green Bay is really unique. I think the coordination that's taking place is really special, and I think it's going to really enable us and position us well as a region to support entrepreneurs in ways that just has never taken place before. And so I love the spirit of collaboration that's taking place, and Kelly's been a really big part of that, and really was the start of putting together that task force that she mentioned, and bringing together people from across the community, from different sectors, from entrepreneurs to investors to companies, together to dialogue and see how we can best create the kind of environment that really enables people to build and grow here.
Right, and I know that you're focusing on a holistic approach, so you have collaboration with educational institutions as well as businesses in the region. How does that work?
Well, speaking from Titletown Tech's perspective, I think as we were designing Titletown Tech, we realized that as you look around and see successful ecosystems like ours that a deep tie into education, and in our case, higher education, is really critical. And so we've been really fortunate to have a relationship with the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, the local public university here, and then extend that into relationship with the University of Wisconsin system. And so the University of Wisconsin system provides both a full-time entrepreneur in residence here within Titletown Tech. So we're really fortunate to have a gentleman named Aaron Kennedy, who is the founder of Noodles & Company, somebody who really taken and launched a brand that's got very high name recognition and is an exceptional talent to work with young entrepreneurs as they think about how to build and scale a business. But the part of the relationship that is as critical is the connections that it gives us into working with all 13 campuses within the UW system. And so that relationship with the system to connect into whether it's connecting entrepreneurs to other talent or to faculty or connections or to research. That's been a really critical part of connecting this ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And from an economic development standpoint, talent is the number one issue for any company anywhere, whether it's a startup or a large corporation or a small to medium-sized business. And so having that connection and having education partners at the table is so important, not only from just a constant communication standpoint, but for maintaining that connection to industry and understanding what the growing needs are in industry from a talent perspective and training perspective. So I think it's just vital to have that partnership.
And Kelly, do you see Titletown Tech and its activities sparking interest from outside Green Bay and attracting new businesses and talent from outside the area?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that I very much tell people is with Titletown Tech has given us a national platform to be able to start to tell the story of Greater Green Bay. And with that comes great interest in what's going on here. We wouldn't have that platform without them. And I think that it's invaluable that we are able to tell that story. And I would just say, as Midwesterners, we don't always do a great job of touting our successes because we don't like to be seen as bragging. But I tell people it's my job to come in and make sure the world knows what we're doing. So I appreciate the platform that they're able to give us to be able to reach people and help people understand that we have a very active entrepreneurial ecosystem here and all the resources that are going into it right now. So there's no better place to start your business than here today in Greater Green Bay.
And if I can just build on that for a second, I think what's really interesting, like you said, the power of a brand with the Green Bay Packers and the other partner in Titletown and the other partner in Titletown Tech is Microsoft. And so it's a really unique collaboration when you think of, one of the most kind of innovative, creative tech companies, also one of the world's most valuable and best recognized companies combining forces with the Green Bay Packers, both global brands. And so it creates that platform that Kelly was talking about to, share a story. And so I can share that, we've heard from people in Boston who grew up in Green Bay and said, I'm thinking that at some point I want to start a business, and I never really saw Green Bay as an option, and I do now. Or I can share, I heard from somebody in the Seattle marketplace who has family in Wisconsin who said, I'm looking to start this business, and I realized that, maybe I can do it at a much lower cost than I could if I was out on the West Coast, or maybe can build a team that would be a little bit bigger than I could do if I was looking for capital out on the West Coast. And I never saw Wisconsin and Green Bay as a possibility before. And so I do think that, there are people starting to see this as a possibility. And then when they come here, get blown away by the resources that, the Startup Hub and Urban Hub and Titletown Tech can bring in a really unique environment. And so it is a great chance for us to tell our story.
Yes, it must be great to have such high-profile organizations involved. So talking about technology, and you have Microsoft playing an active role, but it makes me think about, tech is evolving so rapidly in so many industries, it's hard for companies to keep up. How important is it for companies in Green Bay, everywhere really, to innovate and advance their tech capabilities? Craig, let's start with you.
Well, I think that it's important to recognize, like you said, that both, technology is advancing and markets are moving at, an unprecedented speed. And so the need for companies in this region, both to start, but existing companies, to be able to not only keep up to date, but really look for ways to apply those technology in unique and innovative ways to solve real market problems is more important than ever. I've shared with people that I've known in this region that for a while, we were kind of followers within the industry, and you could argue whether we were fast followers or moderate followers, but we tended to look and see, hey, what was happening and then is it going to have implication here? And you could still make moves and gain and kind of catch up to where the marketplace is. Future economy is not going to enable us to do that and play catch up. And so we can't merely be observers in this market. We really have to look and move quickly on technology. But I think the thing that makes it so possible to do here in the Midwest is that we have so many companies and so many employees within these companies who are future entrepreneurs, who are deeply knowledgeable of the markets that they're in, who understand the marketplace, who see opportunities. And what it really requires is just connecting some of those opportunities that they see with some of the capabilities to help them build. And so in some ways, I think we're uniquely positioned in Green Bay and really in the Great Lakes area to take advantage of this marketplace in a really positive way and grow some of the next great companies here. And so I'm very optimistic, but you're right, it requires us to move at a market pace, and the market's moving fast, and it requires us to think about how to leverage technologies, whether it's artificial intelligence, machine learning, autonomy, natural language processing, AR, VR, immersive reality, ways to take those technologies into our companies, solving real market problems, and then building them here.
And what's your feeling on this, Kelly? How much of an issue is innovation in technology for local existing businesses and for startups?
Absolutely. So, one of our largest industry concentrations here in the economy is manufacturing across the board. And I think that's a great industry to look at as an example of just the rate of change, right, and technology adoption happening in manufacturing. And you have to stay ahead of the game. We have several initiatives underway to make sure that our manufacturing base has the resources and are able to connect to the right resources so that they can continue to be at the front, right, and maintain their global competitiveness, because you have to continue to increase your productivity, right? You've got to do a lot more, be a lot more efficient with a lot less these days. And so making sure that they have access to the right, but access to technology and ways to implement that. Now, not only in manufacturing, but I think that holds across the board, of course. I think another interesting, and of course, Craig has a tremendous amount of industry background in transportation and logistics, supply chain solutions. That's another industry you're seeing such an uptick in technology adoption. And so we're also seeing a lot of play in that space in the startup space, right? Because there's a lot of new solutions being offered into the industry and in the market, and that is another area of concentration that we have here in the industry. We have the 18th largest concentration of transportation and logistics employment in the country, and that's no small feat. So with that comes a level of expertise across the board, and just as Craig was saying, you have individuals in corporations, right, who may have an idea or a solution to the market, and then through innovation thinking, through connections, through having the resources for startups, they're able to step out and launch a successful company in the industry. And a lot of that has to do with the concentration that's here, but it also is going to be continuing with all the resources that are being plugged into the entrepreneurial ecosystem here.
Interesting.
Yeah, and if I can just build on that for a second, Heather, I was going to just say that, with Titletown Tech, we really decided early on that we're going to try to focus on building capabilities around some of the industry areas that, have really been, where we in the Green Bay area have really been leading in the past. And Kelly mentioned, manufacturing. We've got a great heritage and have done a great job in this area of building manufacturing capabilities and leading the marketplace. Supply chain, as Kelly mentioned, has really been critical. And that's why those are two of the 5 areas that Titletown Tech has chosen to focus. Now, our others, because of the relationship with the Packers and also investments that we've had from the owners of the New York Mets and the Boston Bruins, we're going to work on sports. We also see in this region, in addition to manufacturing and supply chain, some incredible organizations, talent in the digital health space. And so health is is an area that we think we really have positioned ourselves well as a region to compete in. And then Wisconsin's been, a really strong state when it comes to natural resources. And so we have one area we call AW, which is the nexus of agriculture, water, and the environment, where we think we've got some new capabilities to solve some really interesting problems here. But I think what we've really tried to do with both what Kelly's talking about and what we're talking about is build on the native strengths that we have here, give additional capabilities and capital into the region, and then build what we're good at. And those are areas that we are really good at here. And we've got people who are, the best minds in the market when it comes to some of these sectors. And that's really what's exciting, I think, for Kelly and I, is we don't have to create something that's not here. We don't have to be something that we're not. We can simply say, you know what, we're really good. Let's take a little of that Midwest humility out that Kelly was talking about earlier. We're really good in this space. We've got some of the best minds in the world solving problems in this area. Let's help them create something that's special.
Okay, so your efforts are focused on certain industries that are traditionally strong in Wisconsin. And I know it's early days yet, but how are things going? Are innovators and startups queuing at your door, Craig?
Well, what's really interesting is we're really pleased with the amount of activity we've had so far. And as we look at it across those verticals, there's no question that the most active area has been in the digital health space. That's been very active. There's a lot of activity. You can see some kind of pent-up demand in that space. So that's been really solid. The sports area has actually been next. But what's been interesting is that's been people from around the country looking at this unique situation we have, where we've got 3 professional sports teams in 3 different professional sports kind of investing together to build. And so I think that that's a natural, we'll have a play there. But I actually don't know that our region will ever become the leader in that space. It's just really helping leverage those brands. And then the next one is supply chain. We're seeing some really interesting, and even as somebody who's been in the supply chain industry for a long time, some interesting new takes on supply chain capabilities that are really exciting. And so seeing great activity there, and I think we really have an opportunity to build and lead in that space. And then so far, the manufacturing and all spaces have been, a little slower, but we kind of expected that, and are just engaging more in those markets. But really pleased with the activity so far, seeing a lot of interesting creative people with ideas and just figuring out the best way to leverage what we're doing to help them build.
Yeah,
okay,
and I would just echo with Craig's comments there about the authenticity to the region. So, those focus areas are very authentic to what our history is, what we've been able to grow on, what the economy lives on here. And I think it's so important from an economic development standpoint to be authentic to who you are as a community. And this is just looking at the entrepreneurial side, and the tech side is a side of the community that not everybody knows. And so it's an exciting, because there's so many innovations and history here in different industries. It's really exciting to be able to start to tell these stories and get that platform to be able to share what is authentically the greater Green Bay strengths. So I just think that's so important.
And so, Kelly, Titletown Tech for you must be really exciting for you and the chamber. And what impact do you expect this to have on the region's economy? What opportunities will it bring for existing businesses and the startup community?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, I think one of the biggest outcomes certainly will be the level of collaboration and the ability to convene stakeholders in order to move things in a very positive direction. But certainly the outcomes we'd be looking for, certainly around job creation, right? So for every startup company that you can grow in your own front yard, you have a better chance of keeping them here, growing them organically, and having those jobs join in the regional economy. So I think that's certainly a big piece of it. You know, there's some great examples of companies. We have one company here locally that just celebrated their 29th year in business, and they just hired their 1,000th employee. You know, those are the stories that we're looking for, and it's a long-term play, but we've got the right players at the table to make those long-term investments, and it's quite amazing. And again, I consistently use the word transformational because the investment that the Packers and Microsoft are putting into this project is transformational. You know, our MSA, which is your metropolitan statistical area, is right around 300,000. And even though we have about 1.2 million people within a 50-minute drive time of here, to have this level of play is unheard of. And I just think it's not only transformational, but pretty phenomenal too.
Okay, which leads me to my final question, really, for both of you. I mean, do you look at the centre through a regional lens, or do you see it as raising the region's profile and gaining national recognition as a tech hub? Craig, perhaps first.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was just going to say, I'd like to answer that a little bit, and then I think Craig could give it a really nice finish. We could do that. So definitely, you know, the investment and the partnership gives a much higher profile to the greater Green Bay area and Green Bay. And by elevating that and increasing the product that's coming out of here will also affect the region. And at the same time, I tell people this all the time, is that, you know, there are no hard lines and borders around entrepreneurism, right? So it's not like we don't work with people outside of Green Bay, and Craig can go more into that. But I would say that, yes, it is definitely raising the profile of the greater Green Bay, the city, the surrounding communities, and will definitely help to leverage the region as a whole as a definite positive benefit. And I'm sure Craig can finish that out with a broader picture as well.
And I think just building on what Kelly said, you know, as you look to launch something like Titletown Tech, and as you look to bring in some of the companies that we have that are, you know, supporting what we're doing, just building off not only the Packers and the Microsoft, but when you think we've got investors from New York, we've got investors from Boston, we have, you know, more than a dozen Wisconsin-based companies who are investing in the opportunity to build here. I think all are doing so with recognition that we have the opportunity to solve and create really unique businesses that can have not only national but global impact. So I think in this market, you think about how to create global impact, how do you reach national markets, and then recognize that we have every ability to do it here from Green Bay. I sometimes share the story of the company that I founded before launching Titletown Tech, which was in the supply chain and energy space. And we had 85 people in Green Bay running the business, and we were in 42 countries. We were one of the largest operators in this segment across North America, and we showed that you can have national and international impact by building here in Green Bay. I think now, as we think about what's next, you think about how to build on those type of successes. And when you think about the Green Bay Packers, you know, I've shared that for many, they talk about, you know, the Green Bay Packers, you know, are the most improbable team in sports. You know, they were founded at a time when the sport was very new. Almost every one of the folks that competed with went out of business. This community rallied several times and saved them and built them into a globally recognizable brand. It is an improbable story. And what we're trying to do with Titletown Tech and the Startup Hub is work with people to build their next improbable story. We know they're there. We think it's going to be really exciting. It will change the way people think about Green Bay, and it will have national impact. And that's the way we think about it.
Yep. Well, it's a fabulous initiative, and I'm sure it'll be hugely successful for the region. I wish you guys every success with all. We must be busy people at the moment. So thanks very much for taking the time to talk with us, Kelly and Craig. It's been really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and we hope everyone finds a reason to see what's going on in Green Bay.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.